Well, hello and welcome everyone to our CDI consulting webinar titled Agents for Automation, Implementing Import Agent and QuickFields Agent. My name is Kyle Niebel from CDI here, technical trainer, and we've got a great little session here today to take a look at. All right, so we're going to look at two products during this demonstration, both called Import Agent and the other Laserfiche QuickFields Agent. Therefore, the term agent, right? These products do slightly different things, and we're going to learn about them today and implement them together to show you a solution that I think you'll find quite neat. A little housekeeping before we get started. We do have a control panel that you can see. You will have a question box. If you want to use that, go ahead and post any questions. I've got that up and visible. If you want to post in the chat as well, go ahead and do that. I am showing my screen and you should all be able to hear me. You're all in muted listen only mode, but I'll just make sure that I pay attention to the chat and question boxes if you do have any questions. So we look forward to seeing any questions you can come up with here. I'll go slow and introduce all the methods here that we're doing here. If you want these slides, which are fairly basic after the show, go ahead and feel free to request those. I can get those to you. This session actually will be recorded, and we will get an edited version up to our YouTube channel in just a few days. So if you're looking forward to seeing that or want to have your friends watch it, it'll be up there in a matter of just a few days. And we'll get you, I'll show you the link at the end of this class as to where we can find that. All right, who is this session targeted to? Well, obviously Laserfiche admins might find this useful. You might have even seen this product in play, but maybe not the other. It just depends on your experience level. This should be really fun for anybody interested in what Laserfiche can do. Either you're an admin, IT staff, a subject matter expert, or just somebody who's interested in Laserfiche products. This will be a great little primer for those who are interested. So the two products mainly we're going to talk about and demonstrate here today are Laserfiche Import Agent as well as the Laserfiche QuickFields Agent. And let's talk about those. So Laserfiche Import Agent is an add-on component that can ingest or basically pull documents from a monitored Windows or network folder and bring them into a Laserfiche repository. And as you can see on this screen, this is a configuration utility screen, and you can have multiple profiles watching multiple folders and bringing them into different Laserfiche folders if you want within one or more repositories. The product is easy to use. Normally it's installed on a single server or a dedicated workstation that's always on, because Import Agent does some really neat things. Not only does it monitor those Windows or network folders, we can schedule when it is monitoring that info, like it can pull all the time, or maybe after hours, or on a schedule during the day, whatever you prefer. That profile can be configured to support that kind of scheduling and source as well as destination info. And we're going to see that here today. Plus, it's kind of like a little mini client. You can actually tell it to apply metadata to the files that are being brought in. Although it's not dynamic, it's not smart enough to figure out that, oh, it's this document, therefore it needs this kind of metadata. It's basically any file in that profile that's being imported will always get a certain field value or template assigned. So it's not very dynamic. It's more static assignment of metadata for any file brought in within that particular profile. And we'll see that here in a moment. Now, when you install the Import Agent, you also get Email Archiver, which is a handy tool in case you want to bring in emails or maybe attachments from an email, but not the email itself. As part of today's demonstration, we won't actually get into the email archiver. I just want to make sure that you're aware that that is part of the product. So if you do have import agent, it also comes with the email archiver, which can be connected to Exchange or Office 365 servers and configured to pull emails from either one of those. There are configurations in the email archiver profile design tool where you can configure it to just pull in attachments, not emails, and it just will drop the email and only bring in attachments if you so desire. Great tool. And again, just like the import agent tool, email archiver has multiple profile capability. So you can have all kinds of different rules basically that you've set up for different types of monitored email folders for different purposes. And again, you can apply static metadata to the imported content within that tool as well. And then finally, the QuickFields agent tool is a way that we can schedule the processing of documents using QuickFields session files. So this obviously means that we're going to be using QuickFields along with the QuickFields agent add-on tool. QuickFields agent also is an add-on component. For pricing and licensing, please feel free to reach out to your account manager for that information, as I don't have that and it changes on occasion. So I don't want to give you some incorrect information here. As you can see in this screenshot, this is just one schedule of possible many, and then we can point the scheduled to process a particular QuickFields session file. So you can have multiple scheduled sessions after hours, certain points of the day. It just depends when you want to schedule that. So we're going to look at how this is configured and some of the options available to us as well. So just to review, QuickFields will schedule QuickFields sessions so that you don't have to run them manually. You tell it when they should be run, and they will then run that session, and then it follows the session guidelines. We're going to talk about and show you how we've set up a QuickFields session here today as well. Out of the QuickFields agent, you can track the sessions. There's a reporting tool, and you can even report on those results and send via email if you want to. There's an optional setup for sending emails. And you can analyze the sessions to see if there are, and then that will point out that maybe there was a problem with the session itself. And you can then go back and edit the session that was run by the QuickFields agent, fix it, and then the session should run just fine next time, assuming you fixed it, by the QuickFields agent. All right, so let's set the scene here for our demonstration here today. We have some standardized documents. Typically, we want to make sure that our session is processing standardized, standard layout type documents. In our demo, we're going to have some invoices and some letters. Some of these invoices will even have barcodes on them, and we can read the barcodes with a QuickFields session, and we'll show you how that's done. We're going to then process those files that are being dropped into a network folder. Basically, we want our import agent to pull those standard documents into Laserfiche. That session will process the files that are in Laserfiche, and then we will use the agent, the QuickFields agent, to schedule the processing of those files that were pulled in by import agent. So that's our idea, our scenario, or our scene, and I think that's fairly straightforward. So if we take a look at that next, let's dive into our demo. All right. In our demonstration, I have a folder. This is assuming our network folder. I've got our source file, which is a set of documents in here, about 5 documents with either barcodes or letter titles and things like that. And we're going to drop it into a folder in which we would expect our import agent tool to be monitoring and bring that document or that batch file into Laserfiche. And if we look at the configuration in import agent, I'll show you what it's been built as, but we'll go through it and build it from scratch just to show you how that's done. So if I open up the profile editor, you'll walk through and basically do what we see here is give the profile a name and point it to our monitored folder location. In my case, it's on my desktop, but it could be on your network. Just depends on your particular needs. You can also set it to retrieve from subfolders within the targeted folder as well. Also, you can set a filter as to what kind of files you want to import. For example, maybe you have a monitored folder that are scans from your copier in your photocopy room. And when you hit a button on your photocopier, that sends a file to a particular folder on the network, and then you want those files to get brought into Laserfiche. Well, this is a perfect example and a perfect use case for import agent. And we might set it up to bring in PDF files because, as we know, copiers might create PDFs or TIFF files depending on how it's configured. So you might say, hey, let's bring in the PDF files only when they're coming in from a particular folder. Pretty cool. As you can see here, we can add from our existing list, or if you don't see it in the list, you can just add the extension of the file type that you want and filter that way. I'm not going to do that here because I don't really need that part. As you can see on the left-hand side, you have some properties. This is the target. So the properties tab here is going to tell us where we want to put the file. And we have a login set of credentials to the repository. Just set up your own repository and your login credentials. They could be a Windows account, a admin account, could be any account you want, a particular user, whatever you feel is useful, feel free to do that. The admin account in Laserfiche might not be the best because it's kind of limited in how many times it can actually and how quickly it can connect to the system. So as an admin, you'd maybe use it for administrative work, but not as an account that's going to be sending documents in here. I would recommend something else. I'm using it for my system only for ease of use, but typically we won't see that. There's a token here for the name of the document. If the document name just should be kept as is, that will keep it from what it was created as, and then it could be changed by a workflow or whatever you want. There are tokens in here that you can use to assign maybe additional information to the document as it's being imported into the system in Laserfiche. And then this folder path is where in the Laserfiche repository will the document end up. You can set other defaults for folders if the above folder can't be found, which in most cases probably is not true, but it depends. Maybe it gets changed. Your default volume could be set as just to use the parent's default volume, although I tend to choose a particular volume. It's up to you for that. If you're using count or numbers in the document name, you could set your profile count to start at a particular number here as well. So that's your target info and document naming properties. I mentioned earlier that you could assign templates or field values to the incoming documents. This is where you can set up that static template or field values being assigned to each document being brought in. So in that Fields tab, you could set that up. You can also assign tags if you want as well. And then finally, the scheduling. So import agent, as you could figure, this profile needs to be set up with a schedule. For our demo purposes, I have it running continuously because I don't want to have to sit and wait for a couple minutes while we wait for the document to be imported. But if you want to run this and pull in documents only after hours, you could set that up with a schedule. So you can add the different days in which those schedules run, and you're all good. I'm gonna leave mine on continuous. For processing, this is kind of where we get into a little bit of the what I would call mini client behavior, because we can tell the import agent to generate OCR text from our scanned images or our imported images as well. And if it was a PDF, we could even generate image pages from the PDF that might generate searchable text off the PDF as well, especially if they're image-only PDFs coming from a photocopier. So sometimes we do set these as well. Just for sake of speed and efficiency, we're going to leave these defaults as is. And then finally, for post-processing, the import agent can be set up to move the processed documents from its monitored folder, and then in my case, I've created a subfolder called processed, but then I've added this date time token. You might notice that there's a short list of tokens, very little, in fact, right? Just one. So you're thinking, well, how did you come up with that? Well, these are standard Laserfiche tokens that are in the system. Your Laserfiche help files can be used to find different tokens. You're probably familiar with the %date. Well, there's also a %date time and some other tokens that might be useful for creating folders. So I've done that here. Down below, you might notice that in the monitored folder, it's going to, if there's any issue with maybe connecting to the repository, that the imported file, if it can't be imported, gets moved into a subfolder in the monitor folder called IA error, IA being import agent. So that is sometimes where we might find an issue. And if we correct the issue, we can then just move the file out of this folder, drag it up to the back into the monitored folder, and then you're good to go. Import agent also has various ways of handling document names that are the same, or if metadata is the same, how to handle that. For both images or electronic files and metadata. And if you want, you can even set version control, especially if you're bringing in Word documents. Maybe you want to bring in that same Word document over and over again. And if it's the same name, maybe it's a report that comes in every month, let's say, you could have it create versions. And if you open up the Word document, Laserfiche would open the most recent by default, but you could still go back and look at previous versions as well. So some really neat features built into the import agent profile. So how do you create a new one? Simply click that create new profile button, and the option is to start afresh, which I'll point out why we have copy settings. The reason why they have this here is because if you're going to have the same profile that points to the same repository, you don't have to enter all the credentials and information about that repository from scratch. If you say start new profile, that forces you to point to a repository, enter the credentials. It's just a bit more tedious. So it saves you a bit of effort in that regard, but you might be changing target folders and monitored folders, which is fine, but I think it's useful to copy settings from a previous profile. That way it saves you the effort of having to enter, as we can see here, all those server sign-in properties. For example, if we did it differently, just start new profile, notice it asks us for the credentials for our login. Oh, and by the way, did you see this? Import agent will import into the cloud or on-premise repositories. So it doesn't really matter where this is. Okay, so again, create your new profile, will copy the settings. Now, obviously it copies the profile name, change the name to whatever profile name is appropriate for the particular purpose, and continue on. And the rest is as we had seen before. Set your credentials, maybe your target folder, set your fields or templates if you are assigning them. Maybe that gets assigned afterwards by a workflow, but the import agent could be set to statically assign info in this particular case if it's warranted. All right, and then step through those steps, click OK, and then you'll have your additional profile. Is there a limit to how many profiles you have? No, I don't think there's a theoretical limit. There might be a practical limit for how much processing and intake of files is occurring. and adding up those profiles and the number of documents it's ingesting all at one time could be a limiting factor. You just have to play it by ear, as they say, when it comes to how many profiles and how many documents you're pulling in based on the import agent. So is the server on which this is installed capable of handling all the documents that import agent might be pulling in every minute? Maybe. Maybe you should set it up on a dedicated workstation that has high RAM and a high-speed processor where you might want to do that, because it could be generating OCR text off of the documents as well. So this import agent can sometimes create a performance hit on the machine on which it's running. Okay, so that was going to take care of the ability of us to drop a document into our target folder so that it gets brought into our target repository. And I do have a repository up and running here, and we have a Agents for Automation folder, which we would expect to see the document drop into. All right, that's step one. Pretty straightforward. Hopefully we've got a demo here. Now, before we do that, I should point out that we also have the email archiver tool, just to show you what it looks like here. This email archiver profile, again, pretty simple, but we can connect to IMAP or SMTP, which is kind of an older style these days, of connection to a server, and we can connect to Exchange, Office 365. It just depends on what your needs are. Once you've set that up, set your ports and all that email, you can test your connection and make sure that you are connecting. So obviously this requires IT assistance in many cases. You and I might try and set it up, but we need some information from our IT support staff sometimes to make it all work. All right. So as you can see here, we've got our target email server and folder, and then we have our credentials to sign into the repository as well. And then for email archiving, you can bring in emails, you can generate text off of those emails, you can set up attachment handling. In fact, in the dropdown, you can do that, and then maybe even tell it to drop the original if you want. It just depends on how you want to see that. So in this case, what if you only needed the attachment? Let's say you're getting invoices emailed to you to this mailbox, and you want just the invoice file from your vendors. Well, this would be a great way to set that up. Go ahead and separate the document attachment, bring that in, and then discard the email message so that you only have the attachment. Pretty cool. Now, are we going to be bringing in other attachments like logo images from an email? It's possible. We might need a workflow that strips those out after the fact, but that's a separate topic. So we can consult with you if you need to handle some of those situations, but this is a pretty standard way of dealing with emails. Again, we can set up templates and fields to be assigned to the incoming documents or emails, as well as tags. So a quick view of the email archiver configuration that's available with the import agent tool. We're not going to use that again in our demo, though. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to let import agent bring a document into the repository, and then we're going to have our Quick Fields agent run a Quick Fields session to bring that in. All right, let's take a look at our Quick Fields agent. So let's just clean up our screen here a little bit and take a look at a Quick Fields agent design here. You can see that I've brought in several different sessions into Quick Fields agent, and then I can create schedules that run these session files. So if you've never seen Quick Fields before, we might take a quick look at the one we're going to run here today in our demo. I've got a mix of, in this batch file example here, I've got invoices and HR letters. It could be a mix of anything, but we do need to configure quick fields to process these files. So let's take a brief look at that. This is not a quick fields training session class. We do have videos for that, and you've probably seen the help files and demos in the past. But if you're interested in seeing more, we can certainly talk about that later. But let's do a quick review. I'm going to launch the quick fields application itself. And this is where we configure the actual work that would be run when the agent tells it to run. Okay, so this is the session file. We'll look at its design real quick here and talk about what it should be doing. And every time you launch it, it double checks to make sure that the templates and fields that we're using with our files are still in play. And if there's new fields, they will be available to the session to use on documents. Now I have quick fields with document classification. And in this case, we're going to actually let quick fields figure out of these two different document types, which one is which. And within the classification, we can tell it how to figure that out. Quick fields is really fast, but sometimes we need to tell it what to do. And in fact, we can see here that for the invoices, which are defined, I'm going to click on the invoice here. We have a sample invoice in the middle, and we can see the properties of the invoice naming that the session is going to do when it splits it out and where they're going to go. So in this case, it's going to try and read the vendor name, the invoice number, and the invoice date. And in fact, we can even see we've got some barcodes, QR codes for these numbers. In fact, I'll show you how that works here in a moment. And then we're going to assign that info to a template and assign some field values that are coming off the document into our document, and then we'll find some resulting docs. Okay, so in this case, it will also put the documents in a subfolder. So we've got our Agents for Automation folder in Laserfiche. We should then have for our invoices, an invoice folder, and then under that, a vendor name folder. And we should find all the vendor name documents. How does that get broken apart? Well, we've got this identification zone here where it's looking for some information, maybe the word invoice in the top right corner. In this case, it's looking for the word invoice, as we can see here, in the box, as we can see right here. So this identification box is looking for the word invoice, even though I could pull the invoice number from that. Notice I'm not pointing at the barcode or even that. So that's the ID zone, as they call it. So anytime it sees the word invoice on the first page of a doc or any page of the document, it goes, aha, that's a new document. So it's going to split it because of that. And then we'll tell it to look for information on screen. For example, we've got a vendor name region here. You could have more than one region, right? So you could pull, for example, terms and ship dates and PO numbers, salesperson name. You could pull subtotals and totals. Whatever it is off the page we want to pull, we can do that using several different methods. In this case, the Zone OCR tool is where we're going to use that. And I'm keeping it simple. We just have one Zone OCR rubber banded zone right there. So theoretically, all these pages will look similar. We're hoping, right? The vendor sending us invoices that they're laid out the same. And for each invoice, we have different styles. So every vendor might have a different type of layout. So we will typically in quick fields have to create multiple invoice classification designs to look for those different types and split them apart because they have different layouts. How do we get this to work? Well, we have within quick fields the document classification module. So that's part of the licensing of quick fields. again, speak with your account manager for licensing costs and all the available options. Barcoding is set up here to read the barcodes on this page as well. Barcodes is an add-on to Quick Fields. The basic Quick Fields does not normally have barcode or zone OCR, but there are different levels of barcode licensing available, so we use that. But once you have these tools, they are fantastic. So we're going to pull, in our case, we have, let's zoom back in, we have a zone called barcode underscore invoice number and another one for invoice date. So we're going to read those values off of that. So these rubber banded areas, they're not going to read the text, they're looking for barcodes. And in fact, if we look at the properties, we can look for all different kinds of barcodes, code 3 of 9, code 12 of 8. Some people call it code 128, but it's code 12 of 8. And then other types as well, including QR codes. Pretty cool. And then we can set up other properties as well for reading our barcodes. We can look for the size, convert to ASCII. So we're going to read the value that is in the barcode, really. That's really what that checkbox means. All right, so theoretically, we should be able to get the vendor name, invoice number, and invoice date from our page processing tasks. Don't worry about our tokens. That's generating some info from the page that we're filling out. If we're going to do multiple line processing, we sometimes need to do some fancy footwork. Ignore that for now. Basically, we're pulling the first line of the vendor name region and then barcodes for the other values. So we should get 3 values for every invoice. For our HR letters, those should be, if I click on that classification up in the top right, we can see that it's got a document type value, the letter full name, and date and time, which is today's date and time token. And it should go into the employees folders, the letters themselves. How do we split that one apart? Well, this one is looking for documents that say HR salary letter, or actually if it just contains the word letter in that particular area on the page. And if there's other pages after this that don't look the same, they become part of this document. So we've got some conditions here. Can you have more than one condition? Absolutely. Maybe it should say if all of these, it contains letter and HR and salary, or all 3, or whatever you want. You can set up multiple reasons why it should be identified as that particular document. In our case, we're just looking for the word letter in this box, which it should find. In fact, down at the bottom right, you can see you can test the current process to see if it's going to read that value. And here in the bottom middle, you can see it read HR salary letter right there. So we know it's going to pull it and identify it. And then for our zones, in this case, we're going to read the employee name, the letter date, and the salary increase. And we're going to apply that as metadata to our document. If we look back, we'll click on the right side on our letter, and we can see our document type is there. And we have some notes where it says the agreed salary increase is to whatever that new salary value is on the letter. Okay, we've got our Quick Field session that should find 2 different document types. In the file itself, it actually has, I think, 3 invoices and 2 letters. So we should get a total of 5 documents. All right. So now with that session built, the Quick Fields agent would be then configured to run that session on a particular schedule. So let's go ahead and close the session. I'm not going to make any changes, so I'll just say no, but it's already been set up. So you would save that session maybe to a local file location. In fact, I have that file location set up. It's stored in my Agents for Automation folder. So there's the Quick Fields file itself. So that session configuration is going to be used by the Quick Fields agent. So I'm actually going to show you that right now. I'll go ahead and minimize that. So on our schedule, Well, first we need to bring on in our session. So we add a session reference, as they call it, in QuickField's agent. So we could do that. Now, let's go ahead and do that. Click the Add Session Reference, and then you just go browse for, in whichever folder that's found, we can find it. So there it is. There's that session file I just showed you. And we open it to import it. Now, it's already imported in here, so we can see there it is. And it's got the file path right there and the name of the session. So that's now available to our QuickField's agent for scheduling. If you have other QuickField sessions that you want to bring in, feel free to do that as well. As you can see, I've got more than just one, but we're only going to, at least for our demo here today, set up a schedule for just one item. And I've already done that, but it's really easy to do that. You might notice you have an export list item. You can dump out the info of that schedule as a item, as a text file. So how do we create a new schedule? Well, we can right click. We can click on the action button to add a new schedule. And then there's some other tasks as well. So let's add a schedule. And here's the scheduler. Let's give it a name. I called mine every 2 minutes. You could call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Then we want to choose from any of our imported sessions. And obviously, if you haven't imported, it also gives you the option to go find one that has not yet been imported somewhere out there on your network or on your local machine. You might be asking, hey, does QuickFields need to be on the file itself be on a local machine to the QuickFields agent? No, technically not. It might normally be, but we want QuickFields agent to be on either a server or a workstation that's always on and dedicated to that process. So again, much like import agent, QuickFields agent is, especially if you're scheduling it to run during the day and after hours, we want it on a machine that's always up and running and not being used by an end user. So I keep saying a dedicated workstation. What I mean by that is, hey, this workstation should be up and running and not for end users to be using as their own personal workstation. It should be kind of running in the background, much like a server, but maybe just a computer on the network. Choose the session file, and then we're going to configure when it's going to run. And you can set that for a time and date in the future or the past. It really doesn't matter. But we do want to make sure that if it's going to have to do this on a repeatable basis, we're going to set the repeat pattern. We could test it once because that is an option, but most of the time it's going to be daily, weekly, or monthly. For our purposes, we could say daily, and we're going to enable that scheduled session to do that when we have configured it to start. But let's look at some additional configuration settings here. At least for daily operation, we can say every day or just weekdays or every so many days. Notice the help button here. This will help us if you have any questions about how to configure any of these. And then once you've set up the configured repetition, there are options on that repetition. Even though it's going to run every day, maybe every day we want it to run every 30 minutes or whatever number of minutes you want it to run for however many hours in the day. Now, if it were an after hours session, you would set it to start at a particular time in the PM, and that would dedicate that for to start at that particular time every day. So that time on a daily basis is it's going to start today with a particular time date, to start. And that means every time it starts, that's the time it's going to run. So we should probably make it a more obvious, hey, it's exactly going to start at 11 p.m. every day. But then when it does start, that option setting for the rerunning will tell it to run every 30 minutes for 8 hours after 11 p.m. Okay. You could even set stop times. And then for the session that you are running, so remember that QuickField session you've told, what do you want it to do? Usually you're going to leave it on the default, which is to process all files through that quick field session and then store documents. Although there are other options here, as you can see. If you want to just process documents but not store them, I don't know why. Maybe you do have a process where you want it to be processed, but then have somebody review the documents in the quick field session for quality control purposes. Theoretically, your quick field sessions should be able to process all files without errors, but in the real world, we know that's probably not going to happen. So it just depends on your scenario, what you want to do. It will store sessions that it can, or files from the session that it can. If it can't store a document, it'll be left in the session, and then we'll be able to run some reporting in QuickField's agent to see what happened the next day and see if anything was missed. And then you can go back to the session file itself and find the files in there. Okay, so those are your scheduling session setups. And if we double click on it, we can see it's got our QuickField session. It's going to run its options, and it was set to start at a particular time. So it's been running since yesterday, and I just need to make sure that it is enabled. All right, so that is now on. Our display here has a few columns, which are kind of handy. It's got some information as to its info. We can enable it or disable it. We can tell it to run now. We can check the schedule properties and session properties, and then even analyze previous runs. You can see there's a number of different instances which this QuickField's scheduled session has run, and we can go and look and see what might have happened in any one of those. So a nice big list. So this is the reporting that's built into the QuickField's agent. And you have some options here for any one of those. We can see on the right side here, up at the top, we have the events that might have occurred, summary of, oh, did it find any pages? Do we have any log information and any errors in any one of those particular sessions that ran? And if we find errors or any problems, then that can be looked at within the session design, and you can figure that out from the session designer side. So that is how we can view that info. Let's do a refresh. Over on the right side, there's a refresh button. It's enabled, and it's tried to run the session. Now, does the repository have any documents in that session? And I should point out that we want to make sure, let me just bring up that QuickField session one more time. I didn't show you something, but I should point that out. The QuickField session itself is, where is it getting the actual document? So let me point that out, and that'll just kind of tie this all together. So this QuickField session is pulling from a source, which is the repository and the folder called Agents for Automation, which is where this import agent should be putting the file. Now, QuickFields can pull from a scanner. It can pull from Laserfiche. It could even pull documents from a local file or folder. So in many cases, before import agent existed, QuickFields was pulling from a local file location, but it does have some limitations in regards to what it can pull in. So import agent is kind of a neat tool when you have other purposes, not just QuickFields. But we're going to tie these two together. So QuickFields, it should pull from the repository import agent or Agents for Automation folder when we do that. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to actually copy one of these, copy that, and we'll paste it in there. And let's watch as that batch file disappears. Notice it's now in Laserfiche. It wasn't there before, and then it moved into the processed subfolder with its in this case, the date and timestamp, and there's the original, so you can move it back if you need to. Can you set up import agent to delete the original? Sure. I like to keep them personally while I'm testing, but that can be configured so that the imported document is just deleted once it's processed by import agent. All right, so now our agent is running. It's set to run every 2 minutes, I think. Let's see, we've got it set daily, it's enabled. And our options are running every 2 minutes. Next runtime says never. Well, let's just run it now and tell it to go. All right, so it's got the status theoretically. It should be repeating. Let's just double check and make sure our properties are set. It's configured for daily use, options every 2 minutes, and all that. All right, and the fact that it's gives us the disable option means it's enabled. So theoretically, should be running. And we'll just have to hit the refresh button. Not sure why the next runtime says never. I did test it many times yesterday, so it was running just fine. Let's go ahead and if we can get it to run now. All right, so it says successful. Now, how do we know what's going on? Let's go ahead and take a look, because we have the ability, like I mentioned, to view what's going on. So let's click on View Events, and okay. Here's my problem. The session was in use, so I should have known better. I kept the QuickField session open and it couldn't run. So let's close that. I'm not going to save the changes there. So as you can see, it's in use by somebody, so it couldn't actually grab the session file to run. So bad on me, but we learned something, right? Sometimes that happens. So QuickField's agent is very sensitive to whether that's running. So theoretically, it should be running again. We can force it to run now. All right. And then if we refresh, it should do its thing. Now again, if we don't know what's going on, let's view, do we have any events? And do that. Well, theoretically, QuickFields is closed and the file is not open. Well, let's just add a new one. Actually, let's disable this one for now. Create a new one. And we'll just say prior to our current time, we'll choose our session, make it enabled, rerun it. I'll just say every 1 minute. Click OK. So now it's got a name called scheduled, and it's active, as you can see there in its status column there. And theoretically, now we can see our session is running. It moved the original. The QuickField session itself was set to move the original to a different location, and then it's breaking out the invoices and letters in the session. So we can kind of see that as it's progressing here within that session. So the agent just ran the QuickField session. The session itself is generating the additional info. All right, so as I mentioned, the two different types of files. We should have letters under the employee folder, and the quick field session did that. It read the letter. Theoretically, it added some metadata with the type of file and some notes. If we go down, we can even see it read the value of the agreed salary increase and put it into the field, and it's got a name and the doc type as well, and applied the template. So quick field session did this for us when it was run by the agent. Same for this file here as well. Slightly different name and a different salary increase. Fantastic. Now for the invoices, it read the vendor. So it processed the vendor, and in there we have 3 different invoices. If we look at the metadata, we can double click and open the document and view both the metadata and the image. Close the text, and it assigned a different template in this case, but the invoice number and invoice date is assigned based on those values. And then some other information like the vendor name was pulled from that vendor area. And therefore, QuickField's agent ran the session. The session broke the files out as we wanted it to on the schedule we defined. Pretty cool. And that's the power of your agents for automation, both import agent and QuickField's agent. All right, so that was a pretty neat demo in the use of import agent and QuickField's agent. I didn't see any questions as we went through this, but if you have questions, feel free to post them now or send them afterwards via email. Some follow-up information and helpful resources, our CDI website, but our YouTube channel, that's where you want to go to find this video later on. So for those who have no more questions, this is almost the end. Appreciate your attendance, and if you would like to give us feedback, we do appreciate that. Some additional information to sign up for other webinars is just go to our website, cdi.support/webinars. We put out monthly blog posts called Fiche Tips or Laserfiche Tips. And then we do have a newsletter as well at the CDI-newsletter sub under CDI support as well. For Laserfiche learning and information, there are many Laserfiche specific locations that you can visit. There's the support site, which has many different links. There is a learning platform called Aspire, which is free to take the classes. And if you want to get certification, you can sign up and pay for those certification classes so that you get your Laserfiche certifications. All right, good stuff. So the questions came up that is the import agent or QuickField's a product that you already have? Well, it depends on your license package that you purchased. So your Laserfiche admin should be able to find that out, but if you're not sure, you can also, again, reach out to your account manager here at CDI to find out what products you have in the mix. Some subscription models have these products in there already, some don't. It just depends on how you went about purchasing them. Most of these two products, Import Agent and QuickField's Agent, are add-ons, so it just depends. I'm not sure how to answer it for your particular scenario. So that's our resources at Laserfiche's site as well. Again, my name is Kyle Niebel from CDI. If you have questions, you can send them to professional services for consulting type questions. If you have sales questions, reach out to sales@cdi.support. If you have tech support questions, certainly reach out to support@cdi.support, where we can set up a meeting time to review your issues. Thanks again from all of us here at CDI for your attendance. We appreciate your viewing and your patronage. Look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. And that concludes our session for today. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.